Jim Croce's life was a whirlwind of passion, music, and dreams cut tragically short. At just 30 years old, this legendary singer-songwriter left an unforgettable legacy with hits like Bad, Bad Leroy Brown and I Got a Name. But beyond the chart-topping singles and soulful lyrics lies a story of resilience, love, and heartbreaking loss. From his humble beginnings in Philadelphia to his meteoric rise in the 1970s music scene, Croce's journey is as inspiring as it is bittersweet. Today, we'll take you through the highs and lows of his remarkable life and career, uncovering the untold stories that shaped the man behind the music. Jim Croce's death at the young age of 30 was not just a tragic loss for his family, but for the music world as a whole. On September 20th, 1973, as his career was soaring, the rising folk rock legend's life was cut short in a devastating plane crash. While Croce was traveling for his Life and Times tour, the chartered Beechcraft E-18S he boarded crashed shortly after takeoff in Natchitoches, Louisiana. The crash claimed the lives of Croce, his guitarist, Maury Muleisen, comedian George Stevens, tour manager Dennis Rast, road manager Kenneth Cortese, and pilot Robert Elliott. The accident left fans reeling and the music industry mourning the loss of a talent whose legacy was just beginning to take shape. That fateful night, the plane took off under foggy conditions. Investigators later discovered that the pilot, Robert Elliott, had severe coronary artery disease which likely impaired his ability to operate the aircraft safely. Adding to the tragedy, Elliott had reportedly sprinted 3 miles to the airport just before the flight, further compromising his physical state. The plane failed to gain sufficient altitude and collided with a pecan tree at the end of the runway, crashing into the darkness. This incident raised questions about flight safety standards, particularly for touring musicians. The industry, known for its grueling schedules, often pushed artists and their teams to the brink, traveling late at night under less than ideal conditions to meet tight timelines. Croce's death became a sobering reminder of these challenges. News of Croce's death spread rapidly, sparking an outpouring of grief from fans, fellow musicians, and the media. The timing of the tragedy added another layer of heartbreak. His latest single, I Got a Name, was set to debut the very next day. What should have been a moment of celebration for Croce's burgeoning career instead became a poignant farewell. The song resonated deeply with fans, many of whom found solace in its lyrics, which seemed to reflect Croce's life journey and dreams. Fans flocked to radio stations requesting his music in tribute. Vigils were held across the country, and letters poured in from admirers sharing how his songs had touched their lives. Croce's ability to tell relatable, heartfelt stories through his music had created a deep connection with listeners, making his sudden loss feel personal to millions. Fellow musicians expressed their shock and sorrow. Artists like Joan Baez and James Taylor paid tribute to Croce, acknowledging his influence on the folk rock genre. Some called for improved safety measures for touring artists, hoping to prevent similar tragedies in the future. For fans, Croce's death felt like losing a friend. Social media and online forums still buzz with anecdotes from those who saw him perform live or found comfort in his music during difficult times. Stories of his humility, humor, and genuine connection with his audience continue to circulate, further endearing him to a new generation of listeners. As an American singer-songwriter, Croce was on the verge of an extraordinary journey, having written and performed iconic hits like Bad, Bad Leroy Brown and I Got a Name. Born on January 10, 1943, in South Philadelphia, there was little indication early on that Jim Croce would become a once-in-a-generation musical talent. Raised in a close-knit Italian-American family, His father, James Albert Croce, hailed from Abruzzo, Italy, and his mother, Flora Mary, from Sicily. Despite his parents' humble roots, music flowed through Croce's veins from an early age. Growing up in Upper Darby, just outside Philadelphia, he was surrounded by diverse musical influences, from opera to jazz. However, it wasn't until his parents gifted him a guitar that he began to explore the sounds of R&B, rock and roll, blues, and folk. This moment marked the start of his journey toward creating a unique sound that would one day captivate millions. While music was his passion, Croce's parents encouraged him to pursue a more traditional career. After graduating from Malvern Preparatory School, he enrolled at Villanova University, studying psychology and German, becoming the first in his family to attend college. Despite his academic pursuits, Croce's love for music was unstoppable. At Villanova, he took a job as a disc jockey for WKVU, the campus radio station. One of the highlights of his time behind the microphone was interviewing one of his musical idols, Mississippi John Hurt. During the session, Hurt indulged Croce's enthusiasm by recording a jam session with him. That moment reignited Croce's desire to follow his true calling in music. Croce was more than just a student. He was an active leader in the Villanova Singers, a college choir that performed both locally and regionally. He also sang with a group called the Villanova Spires, who recorded music off campus under the name the Coventry Lads. These experiences prepared Croce for life in the spotlight. His natural talent and charisma led to the choir being selected for an international exchange tour, where Croce performed across Africa, the Middle East, and Yugoslavia. Reflecting on the tour, he once remarked, "They didn't speak English, but if you mean what you're singing, people understand." Even before his chart-topping days, Croce was learning the power of music to connect across cultures, a testament to the universal language he would later master. He poured his heart into his singing, but that was just the beginning. In November 1963, Croce attended a Houdini in Philadelphia, where he was judging a music contest. Little did he know that the day would change his life. Among the performers was a 16-year-old named Ingrid Jacobson, whose voice and presence immediately caught his attention. After her performance, Croce mustered the courage to approach her. However, the usually confident musician found himself surprisingly awkward. He tripped over a microphone cord on his way to her, and regaining his balance, stumbled over his words as he said, "Have you ever considered singing rock and roll? I think you'd be great." It wasn't the smoothest approach, but it worked. Despite the clumsy start, Croce knew Jacobson was special. The two began dating soon after, and it didn't take long for their connection to extend beyond romance into music. At a party hosted by a friend, Croce performed solo but then invited Jacobson to join him on stage. Together they sang Song for Canada, their voices harmonizing perfectly as they delivered the poignant line, "But just one river, you and me." The room fell silent, with the guests captivated by the chemistry between them. Jacobson later recalled how her friends noticed the deep intimacy they shared through their music. Just as the atmosphere reached its peak, Croce's brother abruptly barged in, asking to borrow his car. The poorly timed interruption disrupted the spellbinding moment. For a brief second, it seemed like Jacobson might slip away, but Croce wasn't ready to let go of the mood entirely. Wrapping up the impromptu concert, he played Johnny Mathis's 12th of Never before leading Jacobson into a dimly lit hallway. Snow fell gently outside, and Jacobson later described the magical moment as feeling like they were inside a snow globe. However, snow globes can shatter easily. Croce led Jacobson upstairs to one of the bedrooms, certain that this was his chance to solidify their connection. But once again, his brother unintentionally disrupted the moment. A friend of Croce's banged on the door to announce that his brother had managed to get the car stuck in a snowdrift. It was clear that winning Jacobson's heart wouldn't be easy. The challenges didn't stop there. Croce's parents, devout Italian Catholics, disapproved of Jacobson, who was Jewish. Yet Croce remained steadfast in his devotion to her, proving time and time again that he was willing to overcome any obstacle to be with the woman he loved. In 1966, Croce converted to Judaism before marrying Jacobson. Ultimately, his parents approved of the union, but they had lingering concerns about his other passion in life, music. Although Croce's parents grew to love Jacobson, they were far less enthusiastic about his ambition to pursue a music career. However, they gave him $500 as a wedding gift to help him record his debut album. Croce used the money to produce 500 copies of a self-made album titled Facets, but their support was not entirely genuine. In reality, Croce's parents had given him the money hoping that his venture into music would fail, convincing him to pursue a more stable career aligned with his college education. They believed Facets would flop and steer Croce away from his musical dreams. However, they underestimated his talent. Against all odds, Facets was a huge success. The virtually unknown musician sold every single copy of the album. Despite this early success, Croce's father remained skeptical of his son's career path. "You did a good job, Jim," he told him, "but this is small time. It's not the same in the big leagues. The people in the entertainment world are thieves and worse. Don't get mixed up with them. That life is no good for you." Tragically, his father's warning would later prove prophetic. On a personal front, Croce and Jacobson were deeply in love. During their honeymoon, their passion for one another was undeniable. After 2 days of nonstop intimacy, Jacobson jokingly protested, to which Croce apologized, calling himself an animal and suggesting they enjoy a romantic pizza dinner. Sadly, they had no idea their time together would be limited. Croce's burgeoning musical career faced another obstacle, the draft. Just a week after their honeymoon, Croce enlisted in the New Jersey Army National Guard to avoid being sent overseas to fight in the Vietnam War. This decision added another layer of complexity to his already challenging journey. Jim Croce spent the next 4 months separated from his new wife, Ingrid, as he served in the National Guard, a chapter in his life that showcased his rebellious nature and sharp sense of humor. While he was a talented singer, his military aptitude left much to be desired. Croce's natural defiance clashed with the rigid discipline of basic training, resulting in him having to repeat boot camp. He later joked about his experience, saying, "I'll be ready if there's ever a fight where we have to defend ourselves with mops." After completing his time in the National Guard, Croce returned home and combined his two greatest passions, music and his partnership with Ingrid. From the mid-1960s, the couple performed as a duo, singing covers of classic folk songs. Over time, they began writing their own material, marking the early stages of Croce's songwriting career. Their love for each other and their shared musical ambition made it seem like they were destined for stardom. In 1968, they decided to take a leap of faith and fully commit to their music. Following the advice of producer Tommy West, the couple left Pennsylvania and moved to New York City, hoping to make their mark in the music industry. Settling into the Bronx, they recorded their debut album, Jim and Ingrid Croce. However, breaking into the New York music scene proved far more challenging than they had anticipated. To promote their album, Jim and Ingrid embarked on an exhausting tour, performing at small clubs and college campuses across the country. Ingrid later recalled that they traveled more than 480,000 kilometers, playing countless gigs in an effort to gain recognition. Despite their hard work, the grueling tour began to strain their relationship. The relentless grind of life on the road, paired with the harsh realities of the music business, forced them to reevaluate their priorities. They were left with a difficult choice: give up music or risk losing their marriage. Ultimately, the couple decided to step away from their dreams of becoming a chart-topping duo and focus on what mattered most: their relationship. Selling all but one guitar to cover their rent, they returned to the quiet countryside of Pennsylvania, settling into a rustic old farmhouse in Lindell. Though their ambitions as a musical team had faded, Jim's passion for music remained undiminished. Unlike Ingrid, who seemed content to leave the industry behind, Jim needed an outlet for his creativity. He found work performing at a local dive bar, the Riddle Paddock, earning just $25 a night, far from enough to cover their expenses. To make ends meet, Jim took on a series of odd jobs, doing whatever it took to keep food on the table. Despite the financial struggles and the setbacks to his musical career, his resilience and determination continued to fuel his creative journey. He tried his hand at various jobs, driving trucks, working construction, and teaching guitar, but to his surprise, these seemingly mundane roles became the inspiration for songs like Big Wheel and Working at the Car Wash Blues, which later propelled him to fame. However, these jobs came with their risks, and one of them almost cost him his life. A friend, Bill, helped Croce land a job painting an elevator shaft, knowing he wasn't afraid of heights, or, more accurately, wasn't afraid of falling from them. That courage was put to the test when Croce dramatically fell 2 stories, miraculously landing in wet cement. He later joked about the incident as one of his more spectacular accidents, though it was far from the only one. Bill recalled another close call that could have derailed Croce's journey. One day, Croce stopped by to help Bill install a new roof. They spent the entire day hammering and drinking, perhaps doing more drinking than hammering. At one point, Bill turned away for a moment and suddenly heard a noise behind him. Whoosh! He looked back to find Croce had disappeared from where he'd been standing moments before. Bill described the scene vividly. Croce was hanging off the edge of the roof by the gutter, his face a mix of panic and determination. Incredibly, he was still clutching a glass in one hand. Rushing to help, Bill reached the edge only to see Croce lose his grip and fall. But astonishingly, Croce executed what Bill called the neatest backflip, landing perfectly on his feet and without spilling a single drop of his drink. In 1971, Croce's life took a dramatic turn. His wife, Jacobson, became pregnant with their son, Adrian James, and Croce realized that his dream of transitioning from folk music to rock stardom was slipping away. Yet, armed with a collection of new songs inspired by his daily experiences, he sent a cassette to a friend in New York. This simple act set the stage for an extraordinary change in fortune. The cassette, featuring Croce's fresh tracks, landed him a record deal with a major label, catapulting him into overnight stardom. Between 1972 and early 1973, he released 2 albums, You Don't Mess Around with Jim and Life and Times, both of which produced hit singles that soared to the top 10 of various charts and became staples on radio stations nationwide. Among these songs was Time in a Bottle, a deeply personal ballad that would become his defining track. Written on the same night he discovered Jacobson's pregnancy in 1970, the song was a heartfelt dedication to his wife and unborn son. Its poignant lyrics, "There never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do," took on an eerily prophetic significance in light of what would soon follow. Jim Croce's unique ability to blend genres set him apart from his contemporaries. Critics and fellow musicians have often highlighted his seamless incorporation of folk, rock, blues, and country influences into his music. Legendary artist James Taylor once remarked, "Jim had a way of making even the simplest songs feel deeply personal and universal at the same time." While hits like Bad Bad Leroy Brown and Time in a Bottle are celebrated for their widespread appeal, Croce's lesser-known tracks like Photographs and Memories and New York's Not My Home offer glimpses into his introspective and poetic side. These songs, characterized by their raw emotion and poignant storytelling, reveal the depth of Croce's artistry and his ability to connect with listeners on a profoundly human level. In 1972, as Jim Croce's career began to skyrocket, he made a pivotal decision. He moved his family to San Diego, seeking a fresh start and a better balance between his professional and personal life. This transition coincided with a series of career-defining moments. His national television debut on American Bandstand marked a turning point, exposing him to millions of new fans who were captivated by his authenticity and charm. Just 2 days later, Croce graced the stage of The Tonight Show for the first time, further solidifying his status as a rising star. These appearances were followed by 2 memorable performances on The Dick Cavett Show, timed perfectly with the release of his album Life and Times. Despite these accomplishments, the serenity of success was fleeting. The pressures of fame quickly began to mount. As Croce's popularity grew, so did the demands on his time and energy. He embarked on a grueling nationwide tour, performing at a dizzying array of venues, from intimate coffee houses to sprawling college campuses and major music festivals. Each performance brought him closer to his dream, but the relentless pace came at a cost. Behind the scenes, Croce's financial situation was far more complicated than fans might have imagined. Despite his growing fame, he found himself in a precarious position financially, tethered by the constraints of a poorly structured record deal. His label provided him with a substantial advance to produce his albums and fund his tours, but the terms of the arrangement left him with little room to profit from his success. Even as his concerts drew larger crowds and his songs dominated the airwaves, much of his income went toward repaying debts and covering the expenses of his burgeoning career. This financial strain wasn't just a logistical challenge. It was an emotional weight that echoed his father's earlier warnings about the entertainment industry. Croce often reflected on his father's words, "The people in this business are thieves and worse. Don't get mixed up with them." As he pushed forward, he couldn't help but wonder if he had made the right choices. Was the fame he had worked so hard for worth the personal sacrifices it demanded? Yet, despite the challenges, Croce's resolve never wavered. His performances remained electric, his connection with audiences undeniable. Fans loved him not just for his music, but for the raw, unfiltered humanity he brought to every stage he stepped on. His songs resonated because they were real, stories of struggle, humor, and perseverance, mirroring his own life. This chapter of Jim Croce's journey was a complex mix of triumph and tension. While his success brought him closer to his dreams, it also highlighted the fragility of the life he was building. It's a reminder that even in the brightest moments of a career, shadows can linger. Croce's ability to navigate these challenges with grace and grit is part of what makes his story so compelling, and why his music continues to inspire audiences decades later. Jim Croce found himself trapped in an unrelenting cycle of financial strain, watching as most of his hard-earned money was swallowed up by debts. Determined to break free, he concluded that the only solution was to work even harder, intensifying his already demanding schedule. By the summer of 1973, Croce's fame had transcended U.S. borders, taking him to London for a highly anticipated performance on the Old Grey Whistle Test, one of Britain's most popular music programs. During the show, he delivered an unforgettable performance, showcasing tracks from his upcoming album, IGotAName. British audiences were captivated, and his appearance served as a major promotional boost for his planned European tour. While his star continued to rise, the success brought heavy burdens. Croce's Life and Times tour pushed him to his absolute limits. By 1973, he was performing over 300 concerts a year, a grueling pace that left little room for rest or family time. The physical and emotional toll was immense, and as the miles between him and his wife Ingrid and their young son AJ grew, so did his doubts. Croce began to question whether the fame he had fought so hard to achieve was worth the sacrifices he was making. Despite these struggles, Croce remained dedicated to his craft. He poured everything into his performances, fueled by the knowledge that his fans were deeply moved by his music. His shows were electric, filled with audiences who sang along to every lyric, their enthusiasm affirming that his work mattered. Croce's authenticity and down-to-earth persona only amplified his appeal. Fans wrote heartfelt letters expressing how his songs had touched their lives, and concert venues were often packed with standing-room-only crowds. The media, too, took notice, with critics praising his ability to tell stories through music that felt both personal and universal. Yet life on the road wasn't all about packed venues and glowing reviews. It came with its share of bizarre and memorable encounters, showcasing Croce's playful side. One such incident occurred during a tour stop when a group of devoted female fans approached him with an unusual request. They explained that they were creating plaster molds of their favorite rock stars and musicians. Croce, with his signature humor, was initially intrigued until he realized they weren't talking about making a mold of his face or his hands. Instead, they were requesting something far more intimate. Rather than shy away, Croce leaned into the absurdity of the moment, finding it so amusing that he later wrote the song 5 Short Minutes inspired by the encounter. The incident became one of his favorite anecdotes to share, offering a glimpse into the quirky and sometimes surreal nature of fame. However, not everyone found the story so entertaining. When he shared the tale with his wife Ingrid during a rare break from the tour, her reaction was less than amused. Beyond the humor, these lighter moments also underscored the complexity of Croce's life at the time. While he was celebrated by fans and praised by critics, the relentless pace of his career left him questioning whether the rewards of fame were worth the cost. Nevertheless, his resilience and humor shone through, even as he grappled with the pressures of balancing his passion for music with his desire for a more grounded, family-oriented life. Croce's rise to international fame was a double-edged sword. While it gave him the recognition he had worked so hard for, it also distanced him from the people he loved most. His story resonates because it reflects the challenges of chasing a dream, a reminder that even the brightest stars must navigate their shadows. For fans, his music remains a testament to his incredible talent, humor, and humanity. Decades later, the memories of his humor, kindness, and ability to connect with audiences endure, keeping his legacy alive. Amused by the bizarre encounter, Croce decided to humor the groupies and later turned the experience into inspiration for a song titled 5 Short Minutes. While Croce found the interaction entertaining, not everyone shared his amusement. On a rare break from his tour, he recounted the story to his wife Ingrid and told her about the song it had inspired. Her reaction, however, suggested that this particular tale was less endearing when shared at home. However, Jacobson wasn't impressed. "It's not just a song," she shouted, her frustration boiling over. "How stupid do you think I am?" As it turned out, Jacobson had her own big news to share. Life apart had been difficult for her as well, and during their heated argument, she revealed the bombshell. "Jim, I'm going to have another baby." Caught off guard and overwhelmed, Croce snapped back, "Well, "Have it your goddamn self," before grabbing his guitar and storming out. It was a bitter exchange, and the harmony they had once shared seemed more distant than ever. After leaving, Croce returned to his Life and Times tour, focusing on the few remaining shows. After a captivating performance at Northwestern State University, Jim Croce was standing on the brink of what would have been another monumental achievement in his already illustrious career. His latest single, IGotAName, was set to debut the very next day. This song wasn't just another track, it represented everything Croce stood for: a soulful artist with a gift for capturing life's complexities through music. With its deeply personal lyrics and heartfelt delivery, IGotAName was poised to elevate Croce to even greater heights, cementing his place as one of the most authentic voices in American music. The song itself was an anthem of individuality and self-discovery, with lines like "I've got a name and I carry it with me like my daddy did," resonating deeply with listeners. It was a celebration of identity and perseverance, themes that were central to Croce's life and career. Many fans saw the song as a reflection of Croce's journey, an artist who had fought against the odds, carving out his own path in the face of adversity. For Croce, IGotAName wasn't just another hit. It was a statement of purpose, a song that embodied his unwavering commitment to his craft and his family. When IGotAName was released posthumously, it quickly became a cultural phenomenon. Fans, still reeling from the devastating news of Croce's untimely death, embraced the song as a tribute to his life and legacy. Radio stations across the country played it on repeat, and it soared to the top of the charts, earning Croce widespread acclaim. Critics praised the track for its authenticity and emotional depth, with many calling it one of the finest songs of his career. The media also played a significant role in amplifying the song's impact. Newspapers and magazines published heartfelt tributes, reflecting on Croce's journey from struggling musician to national sensation. Headlines like "A Voice That Lives On" and "Croce's Legacy, A Name We'll Never Forget" highlighted the song's significance, solidifying its place in the hearts of millions. The release of IGotAName sparked an overwhelming response from fans around the globe. Letters poured in from listeners who shared how the song had touched their lives, offering comfort and inspiration during their own struggles. One fan wrote, "Jim's music made me feel seen. When I hear his voice, it's like he's telling my story." Social media, even in its early forms, became a hub for shared memories and tributes, with fans posting lyrics, stories, and photos to honor the late musician. Concert venues and college campuses where Croce had once performed organized impromptu gatherings to celebrate his life and music. Candlelight vigils and tribute concerts were held, with artists performing covers of IGotAName and other Croce classics. These events were a testament to his far-reaching influence, not just as a musician but as a storyteller whose words transcended generations. In the decades since its release, IGotAName has taken on a life of its own, becoming an enduring symbol of resilience and individuality. It has been featured in countless films, commercials, and television shows, often used to underscore moments of triumph and self-discovery. Its universal appeal has made it a go-to anthem for anyone chasing their dreams or honoring the legacy of someone they've lost. Music historians often point to IGotAName as a defining moment in Croce's career. Despite his tragic passing, the song ensured that his voice would never be silenced. It became a rallying cry for fans and a reminder that Croce's spirit lives on through his music. Today it remains one of his most streamed and downloaded tracks, a testament to its timeless appeal. While Jim Croce didn't live to witness the success of IGotAName, its release serves as a poignant reminder of his extraordinary talent and the enduring power of his music. The song continues to inspire new generations of listeners, proving that even in the face of tragedy, art has the ability to transcend time and touch lives in profound ways. As fans and music lovers alike revisit IGotAName, they're reminded of the man behind the music, a devoted husband and father, a gifted storyteller, and a soul who poured his heart into every note. Jim Croce may be gone, but his legacy remains, carried forward by the music that defined him. That night, Croce and 5 others boarded a chartered Beechcraft E-18S bound for Sherman, Texas. Among the passengers were his guitarist, tour manager, road manager, comedian George Stevens, and the pilot, Robert Elliott. The flight was intended to be a short one, but it turned out to be far shorter than anyone could have anticipated. The plane took off shortly after 1 a.m. under foggy conditions from Natchitoches Regional Airport. Moments after becoming airborne, disaster struck. The pilot failed to see an obstruction in time, and the Beechcraft crashed into a tree, plunging into the darkness. The rising star of folk music was gone in an instant, leaving the world to mourn a life and career cut tragically short. By the time emergency crews arrived at the crash site, it was tragically clear that no one aboard the Beechcraft E-18S had survived. The subsequent investigation revealed alarming details about the pilot. Adverse weather conditions played a role, but the pilot's health was a significant factor. He suffered from severe coronary artery disease and had run 3 miles from his motel to the airport before the flight, a decision that likely impaired his ability to safely operate the aircraft. These combined factors tragically led to the untimely death of Jim Croce. The heartbreak deepened in the days following the crash. A week after the accident, Jacobson received a letter from Croce that he had written shortly before his death. In it, he promised her a fresh start. "When I get back, everything will be different. We're going to have a life together, I promise." Croce expressed his intention to step away from his rising fame and leave the music industry behind to focus on their family. The letter ended with an eerily prophetic line. "Remember, it's the first 60 years that count, and I've got 30 to go, just as planned." The emotional timing of the release turned it into a symbol of his legacy, resonating deeply with those grieving his sudden loss. His son AJ later reflected on his father's journey, saying, "It took him 10 years to be an overnight success, but a success he was." For many fans, the release of IGotAName just 1 day after Jim Croce's untimely death was a bittersweet moment. The song, a heartfelt reflection on identity and legacy, struck an even deeper chord in the wake of his passing. One fan recalled hearing the song for the first time on the radio and being moved to tears, saying, "It felt like Jim was speaking directly to us, leaving behind a piece of his soul." Social media and letters to music magazines at the time were flooded with tributes from listeners who shared how Croce's music had shaped their lives. Some fans even organized candlelight vigils and tribute concerts celebrating his life and mourning his loss. The emotional resonance of IGotAName transformed it into more than just a hit. It became a lasting symbol of Jim Croce's enduring spirit and connection to his audience. Jim Croce's story is one of extraordinary talent, relentless determination, and deep humanity. Though his life was tragically cut short, his music continues to resonate with millions, transcending generations. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Jim Croce's life. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of iconic legends.